to me, it's like being in Manhattan.
When we came here, the first thing we noticed was it's loud. There are people honking.
Like every night we get out, it's like crazy because you would think that it's a Saturday night every night because there's so many people out. I found Thai people to be so much more friendly.
But outside of that, for the most part, with every aim with the kids, so far it's a good experience.
But being here firsthand is different.
Okay, so right now we are on the train headed to Porto, and actually we have roughly about 2 more hours to go.
Yes, and we are in first class because we were like, you know what? It's so cheap to travel first class from Lisbon to Porto versus if we were on the plane. So we were like, might as well take advantage of it for all 4 of us.
So here's our video on our first impressions of Lisbon because we want to do a first impression video based off different countries you've been to. So our first impression will give you 4 topics that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what is it like. We're going to talk about what is it like for kids. We're also going to talk about the expense. And finally, what do we compare it to with the other country that we've been to. So let's start with number 1. What is it like?
Okay, so to me, it's like being in Manhattan. Being in the middle of Times Square, just being able to be in Times Square, going back and forth, and the busyness of it is exactly what it reminds me of. It is beautiful, like the streets are beautiful. It's a lot of buildings, but it's very like congested and very like busy. So I think for kids to live, if we were, living in the middle of the city, I think with kids, it would be a lot. Because again, to us, we've come from New York. Like we lived in New York, so we know that hustle and bustle. But we can see how that it would attract somebody who maybe has, lived in the country or lives in, not in the city itself.
Yeah.
Your fiatos would attract her.
I would see it as like, again, if you like Brizette said, if you came from like a country environment where you're not around a lot of vehicles, not a lot of big buildings, so you come here, it's like, oh my God, this is just like New York, or going to a big city, but I'm not in the big city. Does it have that big city feel? The people are a little bit more friendly versus if I was to go to New York from the stories I heard. But it's a little bit different. When we came here, the first thing we noticed was it's loud. There are people honking. The people walking back and forth. There's nobody really screaming a lot like in New York. There's not people bumping into you. They are very courteous, but it is a big city feel. Like you go up the street, you go down one street, you're in a completely different neighborhood, but there are buildings everywhere.
And it's packed. It's packed. Like every night we get out, it's like crazy because you would think that it's a Saturday night every night because there's so many people out. So we did notice that. And then also as far as the apartments that you're going to get. Like, so we stay in an Airbnb, which used to be an apartment. And it's a pretty decent size of Airbnb, I would say, but it is smaller. So you're just going to have to keep that in mind, especially if it's your family. Little 2 people, perfect. But if it's a family, it's going to be a little bit tight. I will say it's nice, but it's going to be tight.
Oh, I think ours is all right, though, for a family.
I think if we were staying out like a long time, we might be like, we need a little bit more space. Well, there's no kitchen, really. It's like a little kitchen. I would say that part.
Yeah, you do have, because if you want to cook something, yeah, you could make a big meal there. It's not going to happen.
And the washing machine and dryer sucks. The combination. We learned this from Thailand, and we didn't, I guess it's our fault because we did the same thing as Thailand, and the same thing happens. You can wash the clothes great, but that combination of washing and dryer is horrible because when you go to dry the clothes, it never dries and it takes forever. So today we had to end up before Porto, run into the laundromat.
Pretty certain you get to see that footage too.
That was a nightmare. So we had to run to the laundromat, go wash clothes, which was fine, but it was a headache. And again, if you have a family, walking down these streets with your clothes and stuff like that, that can be a lot. But if you're from Manhattan, come to the city, you know exactly what to expect.
But the one thing you could say about the laundromats, the dryers are hot.
Yeah, they're hot.
They're
So
very hot.
All right, so next one, what is it like for kids? I think for kids, our kids don't really care for the business of it, especially Carter. It's just too overwhelming. It's too much for him, and he didn't really he didn't like Lisbon when he first came. He was like, it's okay, because he's comparing it to like this big city, lots of noise, too many people. He's from like the suburbs, So to him, it's overwhelming. Now we went to Centra yesterday. He loved it. He was like, oh, because it wasn't so crazy. It wasn't so packed. There wasn't, there were houses, there were apartments, and it wasn't like the craziness and the hustle bustle of Lisbon.
Correct, and it wasn't as loud as it is in Lisbon. I could say that it was a little bit more laid back. It was more country. It was more feeling of like wind, and you feel like nature, and you see grass and trees. So I knew that's one thing that he really liked for sure. I liked it too.
So he was like, "Where are the food for?" So Centra, he did say I could live in Centra. But it's crazy because like we were in Thailand though, even though we were in Bangkok and there is a city, he liked that.
Yeah.
So I just think because it's here, it's just so many people and so much going on, and it's just a lot going on.
Yeah, but I would say though, Bangkok does have a lot of people. But when we were moving around, we were on a lot of public transportation, so that could be a difference. But when we did take the train, there was a lot of people, but we were on for shorter periods of time when we were off. So maybe that could be it. I
don't know, but he did say he loved it. Like even him, we were talking about the train ride yesterday, and for the both of them, they just said that they liked the train ride in Bangkok. They just liked the experience. It was so much cleaner. Like there was security around. They just like that part. So I
don't know. And the last thing I would say for kids is that even when we were taking our photos yesterday, our photographer did mention that families with kids don't live in Lisbon. Yeah. They live in one of the outskirts. For instance, our photographer, she came from across the river by ferry. She said that's where the environments are. That's where everything are. That's where the the ferries are to come across the neighborhoods, the schools, the private schools. All those are on that side. So that's something for us to consider. Like, if we are thinking something. Hold on a sec, this gimbal is going crazy. It's trying to balance out, but there we go.
Yeah, and another thing, even our tour guide, when we were doing the tour, she did say that because we were asking her, we were like, where do families live at? The kids, do they live in Lisbon? Because we'll see some people on YouTube with kids, and they're like, oh, we live in Lisbon, and we live in the city. But for us, it's just like, we couldn't see the band,
We moved from New York City because we didn't want to raise kids in New York City or Queens. So for us to be there, it just won't work.
Why are you eating Twizzlers?
Because Carter had a Twizzler on one.
Look, it's like here. But, and it does get really expensive, I would say, too.
It's number 4.
That is number 4. Oh, what's number 3?
Oh, what's that? Number 3 is expenses.
Yes. Okay. So I would say it's very expensive. We were even asking about the Airbnbs, and it's going to be like $2,000, or just an apartment to rent. So actually, again, New York's, not as expensive as New York, but you're getting those prices. Where before, before COVID, before a lot of expats started coming, it was a lot cheaper.
Yeah. But for us, when we're here now with expenses, what we're experiencing is the food. And one thing that we learned by taking the walking tour was you kind of stay away from the tourist areas, which is like downtown Lisbon. A lot of the shops there are selling like the pastel, de bananas, and all that stuff. Like the prices there on main strips where they have a ton of stores like your Hermes, your H&M's and stuff like that, those main strips, all those restaurants are really expensive because tourists flock there. However, what she did advise that we just cut off of that side street and go up a little bit, and that's where locals go. And the prices we've seen that it's completely different.
Completely different.
For instance, we got pizza the first night.
Horrible pizza.
Yeah, horrible pizza the first night on the main strip. I forgot what. The whole bill came to almost close to like $100. It was like we didn't really order anything, whereas
and it was gross.
Yeah, we went to the restaurant where our suggested, and it was $140. I mean euros, yes, but there was drinks. There was Saberline deals, fresh fish. It was a whole.
Yeah, we got appetizers. We got everything, drinks. Everybody got a drink, and the service was a lot better. I think the service on the main strip, they're just used to tourists coming and going. So, we're being friendly. It's great. So there was a big difference. But also, our photographer said it's even cheaper if you go. Even what we paid was expensive. Even that's where the locals go when they want to come out to eat. But if you go to like where neighborhoods are, it's going to be even a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So
that's one thing to consider too. What we may do when we come back or come back after we come to Porto, is experience something in the different neighborhoods, and try to get around more families and such too. But again, the last thing I would say about the expenses, the only thing that we're not really experiencing as far as being very expensive are the Ubers and the Bolts. From my experience, go to Washington, D.C., being in Atlanta, being in New York, like taking Ubers to be back and forth when I'm doing jobs, like it is night and day. I think like €4 from here to here, but everything is in close proximity, I would say that. But for the most part, same ride, I would say maybe the equivalent of like 4 or 5 miles that we would pay here would go like €3 on an Uber ride for all 4 people. I probably would pay $20-something in New York City, or pay $20-something in Washington, D.C. And the equivalent of that would be, if it was like €20, I think it would be like $22 or something like that. So you can see the difference. There's a stark difference, and they are pretty fast, and they are everywhere. And also, they're like race car drivers there.
And I will say too, like we didn't know, and we watched the winter videos to find out about like taking Ubers and Bolts, and everybody said just take one from the airport, but our airport host was like, oh, we can set up a ride from the airport to the Airbnb, and we were like, with kids we should just do that, and then we paid $44, where if we would have just did an Uber, it was $4.
Yeah. Well, I think it's $4. Yeah, from when I checked, it was like $4.80. So like really.
Yeah, and we paid $44. So there's Ubers, they're safe. I never felt like it was unsafe and stuff like that. And I will say, the big difference from New York to Lisbon is the safetiness. Like you do feel really safe, but I never felt like anyone was going to do any harm to us. I do say, babe, you do have to watch out for pickpocket.
Yeah, big time. Big time. Be vigilant on that.
Yeah, don't let your guard down on that, because they are out there. So that would be the only part.
I would say they are friendly. One thing I would say, it does remind me a lot of New York, because they don't necessarily just talk to you just off the blue. I mean, you have to initiate the conversation in most cases. Everybody has somewhere to go, or they're just in their own world. They're just relaxing, and they're really not paying attention to what you have going on. But no one's rude. I would say that. It was funny. We were in a laundromat. I think I mentioned it earlier when I was running. So we were in the laundromat. There was an older lady inside there. She was using the facility as well. And then we had all our stuff scattered all over the table. She politely just moved us to this house so she could put her clothes in the bag and, be around her lid. She wasn't mean. She didn't scream. She just like, no, you guys are taking everything up. Stop that. I'm going to use my place here. But again, that could be just the fact that she's like, look, older and I'm set in my ways. But she was rude, but I would say for the most part that, that's the only thing that you just have to, when people say, oh, they're friendly, depending on where you're coming from, depending on where you
No. So that don't, yeah. I found Thai people to be so much more friendly. Like, I really did. Like, even Carter said it. He was like, people in Thailand are so friendly. They're not as friendly here.
Well, that brings us to number 4. Too. What's the difference between the countries? We're going to use Thailand.
So we'll use Thailand. So, like, I found the people are much nicer in Thailand. And just that Thai smile always, it's real. Like, here,
there's a difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Here, I thought they're nice, but you have to, like Jason said, you have to initiate the conversation and say hi, and then they're going to talk back to you and say hi or whatever. But I felt like even when we went to restaurants, they were just so accommodating. Even though here they were accommodating with kids.
Oh, yeah. Because there's a kids.
Thailand was just like...
They wanted to take them back into the kitchen.
Yeah, Thailand, they wanted to like grab the kids and let's go play and, have a good time and just be really... They were just a lot more friendlier.
Now, I would say also, we did a lot more moving around in Thailand. So we were in some local areas as well, too. So, again, I know this is day, 3 here for us. And a lot of the things that we've done so far is on, like, main strips and such like that. So we'll see how it plays out in, like, more neighborhoods. Because right now we just have the experience that we're talking from right at this moment.
Yeah, but I will say no, because we were in Bangkok and we were in Phuket, and so not really, because we were in the big city areas and we didn't stay off the beaten path. So that's not you know. So because then we went to the malls, and it's just everything was just so much more cheaper. Like even food in the
Well,
malls
cheap. I'm
was
talking about cheaper wise. I'm talking about with kids. Talking about kids. Okay.
So yeah, even with food and meals, like we can go out and we had a party of like, what was it, 7 or 8 of us? No, it was more than that. It was like 10 of us, 12. It was a lot of us, and our meals there were even with the whole party.
Yes, that's
was so much sugar, and I felt like the food you had. I don't know. To me, I like the food better in Thailand. I just felt like it was more variety. The seasoning was there, like the spices and stuff like that, and I like the fresh fruit. So for me, it's all about the fruits and stuff like that. And we haven't been able to get fruit right now, maybe because it is November. But we also went to Thailand in November. I know it's tropical there, but and the weather, yeah. So that's really about it. The weather, it's been good for us.
It's a little cold.
It's a little cold. It reminds me of New York. Not as cold as New York, but it reminds me of being in New York, about that, chilliness or whatever.
Yeah, but I would say that, as long as if you could watch the weather in New York here, that's what the photographer told us. Watch the weather in New York here or there, and then you could predict what it'd be here. It was a lot more humid here, yes, but outside of that, for the most part, with every aim with the kids was so far as a great experience. It's not out.
So it's all, well, it still would be on our list to places that we would move if, like again, we want to check out the places where kids live and families live, because just because we're from New York, we would not be interested in living in the city center. It's just not for us.
Different map for us. Like the hills right now, what we're looking at on this train is like things that we will consider, because it's like the houses around, it's like a neighborhood. And you kind of go into town and come back out and kind of like that. But I think that's more for us because where we live right now is in the suburb. And you've gotten out of that city life 20-something years ago.
But it's funny that before we came, I would watch videos and I would see the apartment tours and I was like, oh, that's exactly where I want to be.
Yep.
I want to be in the city with the kids. I want to have that experience. But being here firsthand, it's different. So I would suggest to anyone, before you just pack up and think that you're going to move, and before you just say, let's that's where we want to be, because we were at that point one time in our lives. We were like, we would love to just go and just, I don't care what it looks like. I see new videos and I see people giving reviews. So you really have to come before you just pack your whole family up and say that's where you want to be, because you have to see if that fit is right for you and right for your family, because like Carter is just like out of his element right now. He's like, this is not for me. So where Chase is like, he's on the fence, he's like, I like it. He just give him some pastel donatas and he'll be fine wherever he go. But
because he's up to like 15 right now. But guys, I would appreciate it if you guys give this a like. Share this with somebody that you know that's kind of considering this at this point. And continue to follow us on this journey, because we are headed to Porto now, excited about it. And hopefully on the way back, we'll do another video let you know what we think about Porto. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let's drop more videos just like this.